everyone, it's Leanne Cornelison. I'm with Realty Group in East Tennessee in the Tazewell, Tennessee area. And I'm here to bring you a video today on the pros and the cons of living in a small town in East Tennessee. I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia, although I've lived in a number of places over the past few years with my husband as we have relocated to 7 different states in 10 years. And so I consider myself a little bit of an expert on living in various areas of the country because I've lived everywhere from Chicago to Florida to Georgia to North Carolina to Illinois to Indiana, etc., etc. So if you're considering moving to Tennessee from somewhere else in the country, I just wanted to give you my take, since I have lived in a few different places, on the pros and, yes, some of the cons of living in small town Eastern Tennessee. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and start out with the cons, if you will. The heat and the humidity. Depending on where you might be coming from and what you're used to dealing with, the heat can be bad. But it's only for a couple of months out of the year, and you'll hear me talk a little bit more about the weather in the pros because it's actually a pro and a con, kind of depending on how you look at it. But the humidity can be rough. We are in the Appalachian Mountains, so the humidity here is nowhere near as bad. For instance, we moved here from Panama City, Florida. The heat and humidity is nothing compared to living in Panama City, Florida. It's also nothing compared to what I was used to living in Atlanta, Georgia. Again, it gets warm here, but there are only a few days so far this year, and we are into mid-August at this point, where it's gotten out of the 80s, and it gets into the 60s and 70s at night. To me, that's heaven. I'm sorry, I digress. I'm supposed to be on cons, aren't I? So heat and humidity, depending on where you might be moving from, could be something that you need to adjust over time to. But in the scheme of things, it's really not that bad. Bugs. If you're in the South, you need to learn to deal with bugs. And they can be anything from larger bugs to the very small gnats that come around in the summer in the evenings. Lightning bugs, gnats, or no-see-ums, just all kinds of different bugs. It is the South, and we do have bugs. The heat and humidity draw the bugs. So if you are buying a home, you probably want to have an exterminator come and spray the outside and probably the inside of your home a couple of times a year, and that really takes care of it with no problem. Weather issues. Here in East Tennessee, we don't get an awful lot in the way of really bad weather that can come more to the middle part of the state. We don't get a lot of tornadoes, that kind of bad weather. Winter weather is actually fairly mild here. We do get snow. We don't get a lot of ice, and it's not a lot to have to deal with. But the weather, again, can be an issue because we do get very hot summers and we do get snow in the winter. So just one of those things. Okay, now I am in small town Tennessee. And again, from Atlanta, Georgia, and we've lived in some pretty major metropolitan areas over the past few years. So I lovingly like to say that we moved to Mayberry. We are in Tazewell, Tennessee. My office is in New Tazewell, Tennessee. Tazewell is separated from New Tazewell by a stoplight. An adjustment period was definitely in order. I'm accustomed to having every kind of restaurant available and shopping venues available literally within minutes of where I live. And that is something that was definitely an adjustment. It's a pro as well as a con. The pro is I don't have to deal with the traffic. I don't have to deal with insane wait times anywhere. And I can be in my choice of about 3 different areas with larger restaurants and an abundance of choices within 30 minutes. And I consider that a huge plus, because quite frankly, living in Atlanta, you would drive 30 to 45 minutes with traffic and all kinds of nonsense, even in the same city. So having to drive 30, 40 minutes to get to, say, Knoxville from here, where I have my choice of any restaurant that I can imagine almost, is nothing to me. So again, adjustment to being in a small town and having only a few restaurant choices and a few store choices was a pretty huge adjustment for me. We have been here now 7 months, and I can honestly say I'm now at a point where I enjoy getting away from the city and coming back to my small, safe town and not dealing with the traffic anymore. So, sales tax. Sales tax in Tennessee can be pretty high. We've got state and local taxes, and combined, depending on what part of Tennessee you're living in, they can be higher than what you're used to paying. But the opposite side of that, and now I'll get into the pros, is that Tennessee has no state income tax. So that can offset largely the fact that you may be paying more in state income tax. Cost of living in Tennessee is a good bit lower. Housing, gas prices, overall cost of doing business, period, is insanely lower than most places that we've lived in the past few years. And again, that state income tax, not having state income tax, is one of the biggest reasons that we chose to come to Tennessee when my husband retired. The weather. The weather was a con, but guess what? It's also a pro. Tennessee is fortunate to have 4 very distinct seasons. Winters are fairly mild, considering folks that are coming from anywhere north of here. We do get snow, we do get cold winters, but it's nothing compared to those, again, north of us. Beautiful springtime, gorgeous flowers, beautiful weather. Summers, couple of months out of the year, it gets hot and sticky, but other than that, you go into fall, where the foliage here rivals a lot of things that you see up in New England. The Appalachian Mountains in autumn are stunning, absolutely gorgeous. And then again, moving into winter, where you do have a couple of months where it's pretty cold, and we do get some snow, but gosh, it's beautiful in the mountains. And scenery. Oh my goodness, the pros, the scenery here. The town that we're in Claiborne County, also has Cumberland Gap. And Cumberland Gap, in case you're not familiar, it is a place that's about 10 minutes north of us. And you can actually reach a point in Cumberland Gap where you can stand where the points of Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee all come to a point together. It's breathtaking. The view is breathtaking. No matter what season you see it in, it takes your breath away. We are fortunate to be in an area where a lot of our county is either directly on or within a couple of miles from Norris Lake. Norris Lake is one of the largest and purported to be the cleanest lake in the country. There is boating galore. There's fishing with bass and striper and all kinds of recreation that goes on. There is a booming Airbnb business if you're interested in buying a second home here and renting it out Airbnb when you're not using it, or possibly looking into retiring here and buying a beautiful home on the lake. There are several different marinas dotted all around Norris Lake that have everything from quick bites to fine dining right on the lake. usually with live music on the weekends. And we're fortunate to have festivals and live music and just a great sense of community, small town friendliness that I can't get enough of, quite frankly. Born and raised in the South, I'm accustomed to friendly Southern attitudes, but moving into small town Eastern Tennessee took that to an entirely different level. And the few months that I went through withdrawal of shopping and having all of the big name restaurants right at my fingertips melted away after the first couple of months of just getting into the groove of living in a small town and everyone knowing each other, and just the friendliness and the slow pace, and did I say no traffic? Unbelievable. So those are my pros and cons of living in East Tennessee. If moving to Tennessee is on your radar, I am a realtor. I would love to help you. I can help you whether you're looking in East Tennessee, Southern Tennessee. I am licensed in Tennessee, and I can help you. I can refer you to any to a number of other agents that are in other parts of the state if you go out of East Tennessee. But I would love an opportunity to work with you and help you. And I can answer any questions that you might have, since I did relocate recently here myself, and can answer any questions that you have. So hit the subscribe button below. I would love to have you as a follower. Leave a comment below if I can answer any questions for you. Let me know where you're considering relocating from and where you're considering relocating to in Tennessee. And I look forward to getting to know some of you, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot. Bye.